Greetings, everybody. John Call here. Well, the only real electrical activity in the Capitol for the last couple of days has been the controversy over the governor's executive order to raise the salaries of his commissioners and perhaps a couple key officials to market values. The amounts that he raised their salaries were consistent with a commission report, the recommendations thereof. But naturally, these sorts of issues are controversial and they end up being partisan. Second thing I wanted to observe was again, more impacts from the remodeling. The first thing you'll notice in the Capitol is that there's like less than half, even a quarter of the normal people in the Capitol complex. I think the scaffolding and then the wrap around the Capitol and the distant parking make the Capitol kind of uninviting to the general public. And of course, everyone was told to avoid having days on the Hill in the Capitol. You can have them on an off-site location. There were nevertheless a few nurses wandering around the Capitol today, but such sites are something of a rarity this session. Second thing is that the remodeling is also, because there's less committee space, seems to affected the pace at which we're having committee hearings. It's not a leisurely pace, but they're not getting enough hay in the barn, and that's likely going to result in a log jam when the deadlines roll around. So this is going to be problematic towards the third week of March, and then in the second deadline in April, etc. So. The other thing I wanted to mention is I just wanted to tip our hat to Representative Kim Norton, who once again carried a bill that would give our district and other districts the authority to start school at a date that is most advantageous for the students, for the learning process. And the chambers and the resorters were out in their usual numbers, claiming that if this bill passed, people would be practicing celibacy in the streets, and our graveyards will be riddled with corpses. It will be an end-of-the-world scenario if this bill passes. But in any case, we're very thankful to Kim Norton for once again asserting the right of a local school district and its elected officials to determine the most advantageous time for a school start. Thank you. At this point, I'll yield to Peg Larson.
Hi, this is Peg Larson from the State Office Building. We're downstairs in room 10, and right now this room happens to be empty, which is unusual right now, so because of the fact that every hearing room is being used to its utmost, especially in the Capitol. A few things I wanted to backtrack about. Chair Loon's Education Finance Committee in the House had quite a good hearing on the achievement gap, and she brought in people to talk about programs that work. You know, what does work, instead of just talking about what doesn't work. And Principal Chris Davison, I want to make sure I got that right, from Longfellow School in Rochester came and spoke. And I'll tell you, it made me want to move all my children down there to go, my grandchildren down there to go to his school. Excited, positive results in his school. Talked about how they achieved that, how they turned the school around. Just the spirit that this person has, the spirit of the school was conveyed through him. And certainly somebody to be proud of, and a great accomplishment for Rochester. And it's a choice school, I understand, and it does go year-round, but they just seem to do a great job. Their scores are great and everything else. Like I said, the way he behaved and the way he presented things was so positive that it was just really refreshing for the committee to hear. A couple of the other things that they're talking about, in fact, they're talking right now about the Health Care Transparency Act. I guess that's back on the table. People want to change certain parts of it. White Bear School District gentleman just testified that he didn't want one group to be the group to decide who gets the insurance. because basically it's the teachers union who makes that decision, so they want that to be lightened up or changed. And they want other things in the Transparency Act, the Healthcare Transparency Act, to be changed around now that it's been in place since 2014. It will be interesting. This is just an informational hearing. There's not a bill that I have seen yet, but it will be interesting to see what happens. Senator Johnson in Education, Finance and Policy over in the Senate has a bill for mandatory vision screening, and she's trying to get that through, and supporters for that. She finds that her statistic was that 70% of juvenile delinquents had poor eyesight. And that's one of the things that she's going to bring forward. She also has brought forth a bill that was heard this morning on breakfast for kindergartners. Breakfast for first graders, because the breakfast for kindergartners has worked so well. Another big push here, and has had a lot of testimony, is the pre-K. Right now, the bills are all voluntary. You wouldn't have to do pre-K, but I would not be surprised if eventually it becomes mandatory that your child goes to some type of pre-K program, and they're trying to decide how they would do the scholarships and where the schools would put these extra children, as we have talked about. If you don't have extra room in your school district, you would have to build or buy or whatever. So that discussion is yet to be had. Right now, I would say the legislature is finally kicking into gear. In the House, they're hearing bills for the first time rather than just discussions. In the Senate, they've been hearing bills. One very contentious one was mandatory phys ed. And it was interesting, Senator Kent has that. She's from Woodbury. And it sounds good when she says it, and those of us in my generation, we had phys ed all the time, but there was great testimony against her bill because a lot of superintendents and teachers felt that they don't have time now to teach what they have to teach. Where would they fit phys ed in? So it didn't get a very warm reception, which was very interesting, so we'll see where that one goes. Senator Dahl has a bill to pay for facilities for schools, which as he put it, this is the first bill he's ever had that there was nobody against it. Everybody loves it if school districts could levy for facilities without going to the public, which is controversial. I will give you more information as our bills get the numbers. They have been dropped in the hopper, and we will let you know as soon as they have a number. Have a wonderful week and stay warm.